finally fixed ASUs culture. Tempe, Arizona. This is supposed to be a typical Monday practice. Arizona State hasn't played here in 17 days, since December 22, and the number 11 ranked Sun Devils are eager to see their home crowd at Wells Fargo Arena against Oregon in 3 days. Something looks different, though. It takes a few minutes for head coach Bobby Hurley to figure it out, but once he does, he calls the team to huddle around him at midcourt. The enormous canvas wall that spanned around the arena's upper level, and blocked out 4,000 seats, is gone. Hurley tells his players to look up towards the upper reaches of the arena. "Look," Hurley says. "This is what you guys have done." The wall, installed in 2010, cut capacity to 10,754. At the time, ASU was averaging around 7,500 fans a game. Last season, the Sun Devils didn't even draw 7,000 per game. The wall became a necessity for a program that couldn't afford to continue to bring recruits into a third full arena. What a difference a year can make. That wall is now sitting in a storage warehouse while the 2017-18 Sun Devils are on pace to shatter attendance records, averaging 10,170 per night. You should be proud of that, and now there's such an increase in demand that this has happened, and you guys have done it, Hurley adds. Hurley, a two-time national champion as a player at Duke, knows about filling arenas and hanging banners. His number 11 jersey adorns the rafters at Cameron Indoor Stadium. He's the son of legendary high school coach Bob Hurley Sr. Change was the vision he brought to Tempe when athletic director Ray Anderson got him to leave Buffalo and make the 2,200-mile journey to the desert. And while nobody is going hang a banner for taking down a wall, Hurley doesn't have any intention of letting that massive canvas structure back into the bank. The 12-0 start that catapulted ASU into the top 3 grabbed the college basketball world's attention. The Pac-12 struggles. The Sun Devils are 6-4 since the day Hurley noticed the wall was gone, brought on the skeptics. Yet, to fully grasp what is happening in Tempe, one must look where the Sun Devils were and where they are today. With Hurley, ASU feels that it has finally found the coach that can bring the program out of Pac-12 irrelevance. This is a school with the resources to compete with college basketball's elite. It just needed that right person to make it happen. Because if ASU has its way, the transformation is just beginning. App photo, young Quack Cody Justice has seen it all. He remembers the days of playing in a half-empty arena with the only sellout being against in-state rival Arizona. After all, it would be tough to forget, that was only a year ago. It was 50-50, Justice said. You'd have half their fans, half our fans. The senior guard from Mesa, Arizona, arrived on campus for Herb Sendek's final season as ASU head coach, a season that ended in the knit. Any step forward the Sun Devils made never felt sustainable. James Harden, the best recruit in program history, couldn't lead ASU into the second weekend. ASU hasn't made consecutive NCAA tournament appearances since 1981. There has always been the expectation at ASU that any basketball success would immediately come crashing down the following season. It almost always did. As a result, ASU basketball barely registered on the radar in a competitive Phoenix sports landscape. It was just hard to compete with other pro teams, said Lance Venable, a 33-year ASU basketball season ticket holder. You went through a time when we weren't winning as much, and people stopped showing up. But if you're winning, things change. When Hurley arrived after the 2014-15 season, the players knew they were going to be part of a rebuild. And it didn't take much to figure that out. Justice, a 6'5", 190-pound sharpshooter, was stuck playing power forward for Hurley's first 2 seasons. They just didn't have the bodies. Few would have blamed Justice for transferring from ASU to seek out a better fit. He says he never considered leaving Tempe, though. He saw the blueprint that Hurley laid out from the beginning and knew that his senior year had the potential to be when everything came together. In his first year, it was kind of him feeling us out, Justice said. But now, we got the right guys in here. We're working hard, and we all know what we're here to do. He brought in a lot of winners, And that's the biggest thing. And they indeed started to win. ASU entered the season unranked and picked to finish 6th in the Pac-12. When the Sun Devils needed 2 overtimes to beat Division II Northern State in an exhibition game, that 6th place prediction seemed generous. Then, the non-conference season started, and the offense wouldn't stop. The Sun Devils took a 4-0 start to the Las Vegas Invitational, a weekend tournament that Hurley had realistically hoped to split. Instead, ASU left Vegas with wins over Kansas State and number 15 Xavier. Having scored at least 90 points in each of its 6 wins, ASU found itself in the top 25 the next week and boasting one of college basketball's most lethal backcourts in Tra Holder and Shannon Evans. Being ranked was satisfying early validation for Hurley, and the Sun Devils were starting to get some buzz around Phoenix. Their major test would be 2 weeks later at number 2 Kansas. ASU went into Allen Fieldhouse and stunned a rocking crowd in Lawrence. Heading into the game, Kansas coach Bill Self had lost 10 games in his career at Allen Fieldhouse, while winning 13 consecutive conference titles. Opposing teams typically do not win there. But the Sun Devils did. Holder and Evans both scored over 20 points. Freshman Remy Martin harassed Kansas defensively and scored 21 off the bench. It was the signature win the likes of which no ASU coach had pulled off in decades. "I think we were playing very freely," Hurley said. "Kind of like a free spirit. With an edge to us, with a chip on our shoulder." ASU returned to Tempe that night to a crowd of fans giving the team a championship welcome, lining up to greet the team bus. "It was one of the greatest memories in college for me," Justice said of the late-night arrival. One day later, ASU jumped to number 5 in the AC poll. The next week, the Sun Devils would match the best ranking in school history at number 3. There was no ignoring ASU now. College basketball had taken notice, and so did the rest of Phoenix. This dream season looked so easy. They'd quickly learn that college basketball success is still a grind. Photo by Kyle Rivas, Getty Images. Hurley doesn't say a word as he enters the gym for practice. The players already know what to do. Hurley just sips on his Diet Coke. His assistants are keeping it light, urging a walk-on, Grant Fogarty, to outrace Evans during warm-up drills. Fogarty wins, and Evans jokingly talks trash. The Sun Devils, having lost 4 of 7 in the Pac-12, are preparing for their January 25 game against Utah, and the last thing anyone wants is to let newfound pressure make the team tight. Hurley is a fiery presence on the sideline in games. He's the opposite in practice, calm and collected. That appears to be part of his philosophy: calmly drill the basics when no one is watching and rise to the moment as soon as the stands fill, and fill, this year at least. While most coaches won't emerge from the locker room until shortly before tip-off, Hurley watches shoot around from a courtside seat with headphones in-ear. Hurley won't reveal what he listens to. He's getting into his dark place, as ASU Sid Doug Tomorrow describes. When Hurley speaks in practice, his message is simple: make a shot. Make it personal. The first part became the Sun Devils' problem in conference play. The team excelled on offense in the non-conference, averaging 91.8 points per game and shooting over 50% from the floor and nearly 40% from 3. In Pac-12 play, they had gone cold. Heading into that Utah game, ASU was down to averaging 78 points in Pac-12 play and shooting 42% from the floor. The sold-out Wells Fargo Arena against Oregon became a solid, but emptier, 11,536 against Utah. ASU was no longer that free spirit that Hurley had watched in the non-conference. It was a team that had a target on its back and suddenly had to take an opponent's best shot. When ASU lost at Colorado in January, the crowd at Coors Events Center stormed the court. That doesn't happen to ASU. This was all new. You get to that point and then it kind of swishes on you, Hurley said. It was just different. Just to be court-stormed. I never thought that I would see that this year. Neither did ASU fans. Venable, an attorney based in Chandler, has been watching ASU basketball games for 3 decades as a season ticket holder. He's seen 7 coaching changes as an ASU fan, and nothing has matched the excitement that Hurley already brought to the program. He describes this season as the time of my life, and watches every game with his 17-year-old son Michael. Venable is the rare basketball-first ASU fan. He grew up in Chicago and was a huge DePaul fan in the 70s. He took that college basketball fandom to TEMPE and refused to let it go no matter how bad ASU was. I was never really a football-first guy, Venable said. College hoops was always my number one. When I first moved out here, the team was bad. This was like 4 years after the Byron Scott days when they were really good. When I moved out here, they were just really bad. You could go to the games, then it was the University Activity Center, and you'd be lucky if you had 3,000 fans at a game. I was fine because the fans that were there were all hardcore too. You had to be back then. But I loved going. It was college hoops. Hurley's hire has drastically changed that culture. That difference is easily noticed on campus. ASU's student section, the 942 crew, built a national reputation for its creativity. The curtain of distraction, their famed free throw distraction tactic, has garnered widespread recognition and attracted the likes of Michael Phelps, actor Charlie Day and Diamondbacks pitcher Archie Bradley to participate. The fun idea gave the program attention, but students in past years weren't necessarily lining up out the door for a weekday game against Oregon State. That's where students have seen the Hurley effect in action. For a school that had leaned towards football, the fanbase is desperate for something to seriously cheer for. The most popular shirt around TEMPE quickly became the Guard UTs that the team unveiled pre-game on December 9 in Los Angeles. Venable's son, Michael, sported his own Guard U shirt as he watched the ASU Stanford game at a Phoenix area sports bar. That's how sudden Hurley had reshaped the program's identity. 12 games in, and the city was embracing it. The hot start to the season brought student interest that 942 crew executive board member Courtney Cabral had never seen in her time at ASU. Last year, a player like Shannon Evans could anonymously walk around campus. Not anymore, not at a newfound basketball school. When Bobby Hurley became the coach, I remember thinking that this could be something, Cabral, a senior from Phoenix, said. And now, you're sitting in lecture, and the kids behind you are talking about the basketball team. I was sitting on campus and I heard someone say like, there's 2 basketball games here this week. It's the buzz around campus. Everybody's talking about it. Photo by Chris Coduto, Getty Images. As excited as ASU fans are about this team and their coach, the potential looming threat from Durham, NC, can't be ignored. The more Hurley wins at Arizona State, the more he looks like the natural successor to 71-year-old Duke coach Mike Krzyzewski. Hurley knows there will be outside job interest from college basketball powers. He addressed the job speculation in December. I think that I could be a very loyal guy and I think this is a place that I could very well see myself for a long time, Hurley said on the College Hoops Today podcast with John Rothstein. It's a great conference. The school is terrific. My daughter goes to school here now. She loves it. My wife and I love the area, love living here. It has everything I'm looking for. I'm sure we'll get together with our administrators and work on making that happen for a long time. And that's what happened. On January 31st, ASU extended Hurley's contract through the 2021-22 season, giving him a raise and a $1 million retention bonus if he's still ASU's coach on January 1, 2022. And though few expect Krzyzewski to leave Duke in the near future, it was vital that ASU locked down Hurley to a contract that at least competed with the top of the Pac-12. His new $2.1 million base salary would make him the 4th highest paid coach in the conference, according to USA Today Sports. That extension was the hurdle that allowed Hurley to continue doing what will truly shape ASU's basketball program, recruit with historic success. Up until Hurley's hire at ASU, the Sun